What does being an independent filmmaker mean to you?
I think an independent filmmaker is, in the broad sense, it's just being independent of the studio, which there's such a breadth of different types of movies that are made that could be considered independent. I usually, and it's semantic, but I usually use the term indie, for indie, for like what I do as opposed to an independent film. I'll say I do indie films because it feels a little like, smaller and personal. Because, my narratives now, I'm making them, a little over 100 grand, but I think that's minuscule in the grand scheme of things. And I've made them much cheaper, and they're a different level of movie. So to me, that means, making movies, faster, making movies cheaper, making movies like more personal, and owning my movies. I own pretty much everything I make now. And to me, that's what it means to me. It doesn't mean that to everyone, but for me, that's what it is.
How can you dispel the myth that you have to be middle class or upper middle class or have come from that background to be able to make money with film or be in this business and have a job?
I dispel that by I am the template. Not to it sounds egotistical, but I am from no money. I am from no connections. I came from Fort Wayne, Indiana, single mom, trailer park, lower middle. We lived very, very, very modestly. And I've never had, someone, no one discovered me. No one said, hey kid, make your movie, I was working part-time at Starbucks. I was making, whatever minimum wage was then, and some in tips, saved some money, and I got a credit card, and saved money over a year, and got together with another friend, put our money together, and made a little $5,000 movie. And then, sold that, and by sell it, I mean we got it distributed, and then, went from there, and I kept repeating that, and then, I would work for people and, make a little money doing that as a shooter or, later an editor, and I made a pretty decent living as an editor later on. But even to get to the point where I could make money as an editor, I got there making these little $5,000 to, $10,000 movies, and eventually I got to a point, I had a couple under my belt, and I got to a point where I could talk, another independent producer into putting $25,000 into a movie, and eventually 50, and then caught the eye of some producers that were making a string of $50,000 movies, and they hired me to direct and edit those. And by the time I got done with those, I have, 15 features under my belt. And so at that point, I have some clout, and I'm making a living, a modest living. And I did it. And then, I went from there to I want to just own my movies. I want to make these low budget documentaries. And then, I learned how to market better. And then I started getting to the point where I could crowdfund a movie for $100,000. And, I could go out probably 3 months from now and launch a crowdfunder, decide to do it today, and 3 months from now launch one and raise $150,000 or $200,000. And I came from nowhere and no connections. I built this all up through force of will. I learned how to take what I have and what I earned myself and roll that into a career. And when I really flourished was when I really adopted the cavalry's not coming. Nobody's coming to save me. I'm not going to be discovered. I'm not going to, get picked out of a lottery to direct a Star Wars movie. Like this is my path, and I'm happy with it. There was a time I wanted to be, a bigger, studio director, but now I could live the whole rest of my life making these little movies, and I'm good with that.
With independent film, I think you've said that the time you put in should be proportionate to the money you make back?
Yes, I said that earlier today. I do. Don't get me wrong. So I think you can have your cake and eat it too. So, and I do. So for me, when I talk about the, time in, money in, out, like I'm mostly talking about like the documentary stuff that I do. And I look at that stuff, and if I'm gonna make, like on average, if you would add up all of my independent documentaries and, divide it and figure out how much you're making a month, it means probably around maybe $200 a month, which sounds really bad. But, there's some make 10,000 a month, some make 10 a month. But I have to look at these things, each one of them, like they're gonna make that average. So like if I have a movie that's gonna make $200 a month for a year, it's gonna make $2,000. So is it, like how much time is $2,000 worth? And that might sound a little like mechanical or whatever, but that's kind of how you have to like generally approach it. And then if you have a base where you get enough of that stuff done and you're making some passive income from it, then you can take, a project a year, project every other year, and spend more time on it. And that's what I do with my narratives now. So my narratives feed my like creative, like artistic passion, and the other ones, they feed my my bank account and my natural curiosity towards other subjects. That's why I like doing documentaries. And and some people say, well, that's just I don't want to do that. Well, you're doing the same thing if you're working a day job, or if you're being hired. Like personally, I don't like working for people. If you like working for people and, being a director of photography for people, for example, great, man, I wish I did, but I don't. But that's good for you, works for you. For me, I would rather do these documentaries. That's my like DPing, And I have it, I kind of have it both ways. I can, do my narratives once every year and a half, spend more money, spend more time, and have the little things to feed me in the meantime.
What's your favorite part about being an independent filmmaker, and what's your least favorite part?
So my favorite part of being an independent filmmaker, like I like being my own boss, and I love taking a thing. Like some people, like they just want to do one part of the process. Like they want to make the movie, or they just want to make the movie and edit it, and that's all they want to do. I like the whole thing. Like I have grown to really like the marketing part of it. I like all of it, and I like having ownership of all of that, both creatively and financially. Like I own, close to 100% of almost everything I do, unless I'm, splitting back in with, shooters or whatever. But I like that. And nobody, as far as work goes, tells me what to do or when to do it or how I want to do it. I mean, if I don't want to make a movie next month, I just don't do it. But if I want to, or if I, had to slow down and I need to make up a little bit, I'll do it. And, I can work in, short bursts, or I can do it long, or, I can do what I want. If I decide to take all of next month off and, go to Cancun, I could do that, and then pick back up when I get back.
And the part you like least?
Oh, the part I like least then is, it's also that it's all on your shoulders, so you have to take responsibility for failure. You have to take responsibility, if you are, working with a partner or something and, it financially doesn't work out, you have to take responsibility for that. I've had situations, with investors now where, I start to pay them back out of my pocket if the movie doesn't make money. I don't like that, but I do it. I'd say overall, if I'm like talking about process, I probably enjoy the set itself a lot. I enjoy, actually, I like it all. I actually can't think of what I like it all.
Filmmaking is film business?
Yeah, filmmaking is film business. It's 100%. Well, not 100%, but it has to be an equal component, or a close to equal component. Like I said, I don't think like the business and the creative has to be mutually exclusive. I think you can do both, and you can have an equal amount of energy or a little more into this or that and still make it work. But if you want to make a living as an independent filmmaker, you absolutely have to put some energy into the business, and it has to be a good amount. Maybe not equal to the creative. I mean, I personally do, but maybe it doesn't have to be. But it has to be something there. You have to put some effort into learning the business side. Even if you're not going to do the marketing yourself or you're hiring somebody, you still should understand basically how it works. You should understand how distribution works. You should understand how the business stuff works so that you don't get taken advantage of, so that people don't rip you off. Understand how it works.
And lastly, though, just one thing when you brought up with that, and that is, what if people say, well, I want to do that, but I'm afraid because people are going to say you're all about the money?
Yeah. So I deal with that on a daily basis during my channels, because my channel is, totally focused on distribution and marketing. And, I'll get that. Well, you're not an artist. You're just a money guy. You're just throwing crap at the wall and trying to make money. And there's going to be people that say that. It's just like creative, like trolls. You're always going to have people that don't like what you're doing, that are triggered by what you were doing, that may be jealous of what you're doing, or think that you were causing their problems by doing this thing, or whatever it is. So I would be lying if I said it didn't affect me, because it does. I mean, I get hurt if somebody makes a trolly comment and says that, because I know in my heart that I love making movies. I love it. And if the movie turns out great, that's great. I want it to turn out good. I want it to be the best thing it can. But if it's not, I love the process. So, I let it go.